as we come to chapter 9, you find that Israel now was on the verge of a new start. Everybody say with me, a new start. You see, they were about to set out from Mount Sinai, where they had been camping for almost a year. It was there at Mount Sinai that God gave them His law and the instructions to build the tabernacle. It was there that He taught them about the sacrifices, about the priesthood. It was there that He arranged the camp and prepared them to set out on this journey. All these happened from chapter 1 to chapter 8. But here in chapter 9, it is going to be a new start. One more time, let's say it together, a new start. You see, now it was time for the talking and the preparing to end, and for the action to start. It was time for the Israelites to begin the journey into the wilderness, marching towards the promised land. This was a very challenging task for Israel because there were so much unknowns. Where would they camp? What would they eat and drink in the wilderness? When would they arrive at their destination? Would their mission be a success? Questions, uncertainties surrounded them. But yet, there was one thing that is for sure, is that God was going to go with them. And City Harvest, this morning, this is what I want to declare to you. That 2018, there could be many uncertainties ahead of you. Questions. You may not know what's going to happen, but this morning I'm here to tell you there's one thing that's for sure, that God is with you. He will go before you. Look at Numbers 9 and verse 15. It says, now, on the day that the tabernacle was raised up, the cloud covered the tabernacle and the tent of the testimony from evening until morning. It was above the tabernacle like the appearance of fire. So it was always the cloud covered it by day and the appearance of fire by night. Whenever the cloud was taken up from above the tabernacle, after that the children of Israel would journey. And in the place where the cloud settled, there the children of Israel would pitch their tents. So notice, just as God led Israel out of Egypt by the means of the cloud of fire, the pillar of cloud and fire. So this same pillar now is going to lead them into the promised land. Likewise, friends, the same presence is going to be leading us this year in 2018. This is a new start. There could be many unknowns and challenges. But fear not, because God is with us. See, however, you find that God was not just present with His people as an observer. You see, He was not just coming along for the ride or even sitting as the co-pilot. Because God was going to be the leader. He was going to lead them. Look at verse 22. It says, whether it was 2 days or a month or a year, that the cloud remained upon the tabernacle, the children of Israel would remain and camp and not journey. But when it was taken up, they would journey. Verse 23, at the command of the Lord. Everybody say with me, the command of the Lord. They would remain and camp. And at the command of the Lord, they journeyed. They kept the charge of the Lord at the command of the Lord by the hand of Moses. Can you see that? It was at the command of the Lord. They would journey. At the command of the Lord, they would settle. Because God would be the one who decides. He is the leader. He is the one who will guide them, direct on their every leg of the journey. In fact, the phrase at the command of the Lord occurs 7 times in verses 18 to 23. As such, you find that this journey is at the will of the Lord Himself. This journey is under His direction. Jesus said in John 10:27, He said, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." You know what? The voice of God is the most powerful force in nature. In the beginning, He spoke to nothing, and nothing became something. When chaos heard the voice of God, it became order. When darkness heard it, it became light, because the voice of God is the most powerful force in nature. In Psalms 33 verse 9, it says, "For He spoke and it was done. He commanded and it stood fast." Hebrews 11 verse 3 tells us, by faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. You know what? All our worlds are created by the voice of God, not by what people say, or not by what circumstances is declaring. It is by the voice of God. People used to tell blind Bartimaeus that he would live in darkness for the rest of his life. But that day when Bartimaeus met Jesus at Jericho, Jesus said, "Your faith has made you well." That voice of Jesus transformed his dark world into the world of light. While on the way home, people were telling Jairus, "Hey Jairus, your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" But when Jesus came to the dead girl in Jairus' house, one word from Jesus, "Arise!" The dead rose from the dead, because God's voice is the most powerful force in nature. And the good news is that God is here and He is still speaking. Turn to your neighbor, tell your neighbor that God is still speaking. See, but the problem is very often we are hard of hearing. See, but Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 23 gave us a great promise. Verse 23, it says, "Turn at my rebuke. Surely I will pour out my spirit on you, and I will make my words known to you." In other words, if you are willing to obey His word, you're willing to turn. When He say go left, you go left. When He say go right, you go right. When you're willing, the promise is that He will pour out His Spirit on you, and He will make His words known to you. You will hear His voice. Be quick to obey. Be quick to believe. You see, procrastination dulls your hearing. Procrastination dulls your hearing. Isn't that true? So often, your wife will tell you, "Please pack up your study table, it's too messy." And your response is, "Oh, okay. You procrastinate." Second day, it comes again, the voice says, "Please pack up your study." And you say, "Oh, okay. But you procrastinate. By the third day, the voice came again, "Please pack up your study." It comes in one year, it goes out the other year. Because procrastination dulls your hearing. When you hear the voice of God, obey. Turn at my rebuke, and I will pour my spirit on you, and I'll make my words known to you. You see, living in this modern scientific world, whenever God speaks, we tend to reason and explain it away, rather than responding in obedience and worship. Let me show you an interesting story in John chapter 12. You see, in John 12, after Jesus had prayed and cried to the Father, in verse 28, He said, "Father, glorify your name." Then, A voice from heaven. Everybody say, a voice from heaven. So a voice from heaven said, I have both glorified it and will glorify it again. But look at verse 29. Therefore, the people who stood by heard it and said that it had thundered. Others said an angel had spoken to him. What happened? God spoke from heaven. God said, hello, I am God. And today I'm speaking. God said, I have both glorified and glorified again. But the people who are around say, grrr. All they can hear is grrr. And he said, you know what? It just thundered. They can't hear his voice. You know what? People are often too drowned by the noises of circumstances and negativity. As such, we cannot hear God's voice when He speaks. In 1 Kings, concerning this voice, in 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 11 says, then he said, go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore into the mountains and broke the rocks in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still, small voice. You know what, friends? Don't let the wind, don't let the earthquake, don't let the fire drown that still small voice of God. Because God is still speaking today. Let His voice be your constant guide in this new year. Let the wind die. Let the earthquake stop. Let the fire burn until it ceases. Because then the voice is still speaking. As such, you must learn to sensitize your ear to the voice of God. Everybody say sensitized. How do you sensitize? You see, let the Word of God, the Bible, saturate your heart and mind. See, what is the Bible? The Bible is the written Word of God. It is God's heart and mind put into printed pages. See, like this morning, how do you know what's going on in my heart? You don't know. How do you know what's going on in my mind? You don't know. But you can know. How? If I put all what I'm thinking, what is in my heart, my feelings, my thoughts, and I put them and express it out into words or pictures, you can see and you can know what's in my heart and mind. And that is exactly what God did in the Bible. He put His feeling, He put His thoughts, He put His mind onto printed pages. And if you were to spend time, you give God time in the Word. The more familiar you are with the written Word, the more sensitive you are to His spoken voice. When I was in secondary school, one time, I went swimming with my friends. After the swimming session, we went to the sauna in the bathroom. A few of us were hanging out and enjoying the heat in the room. And suddenly I heard a voice outside the room. And I was shocked. I turned to my friends. I say, you know what? My father is outside the room. And they say, oh, cannot be. You know what? A secondary school student after school should go home and do homework, right? But now we're hanging out in the sauna. I say, no. Really? It's the voice of my father. So I quickly went to the door. I opened the door a little bit. I peeped outside, and lo and behold, my father standing in outside. But that day, why? How come I know? How come my friends don't know? They heard the same voice. But I know, but they don't know. Because since my growing up years, every day, every waking moment, I hear the same voice talking to me. I heard the voice in my home, saturating the atmosphere of my home, at the dinner table, at the lunch hour. Before I sleep, the same voice speaking. It saturates my heart and soul. And the day, in the midst of all the steam and all the heat in the sauna room with my friends and all kinds of noises, when that same voice speaks in that still small voice, I know. Let it be, City Harvest. And then this year, 2018, that you are so saturated with the Word of God that when that still small voice speaks to you, you know. And you say, here am I obey, I come. When you, Lord, when you say, seek my face, my heart responds. I won't be cold. I won't be distracted by my stuff. Even if I have a packed schedule, I will lay aside all distraction. I'll rearrange all my schedule for you. Because your face, Lord, I will seek. And if you can do that, the pillar of cloud will manifest in your life and become the constant guide in your journey towards the promised land.